Happy June.
Hey guys.
Hi everybody.
We are 6 months into 2024.
Yikes. That's crazy.
What happened? I don't know.
Yeah, it went by really fast.
We were just going over our schedule for basically June and July to kind of map out what life is going to look like, and we were both just like, what do you mean it's June?
Yeah.
What? Huh?
I think the summer's going to go by really fast. And
Yeah.
I was also mentioning to Sophia that, like, this is probably the first year, I feel at least, that we're out of COVID. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think people are just, like, super busy doing a lot of things because we can do things again, which is really nice.
True. It blows my mind. I'm like, this is crazy. But I feel like we say that, everybody says that every year. When, like, anyways.
Yeah.
Wild, you guys. I hope that, y'all are having a good reading year so far.
Yeah.
Which is, like, kind of what we want to talk about for this episode.
Yes, we're going to go through our 5/6 stars of 2024, some of our lower rated books, and some of our most forgettable, which I think will be fun because I want to know yours too. But let's start with Sophia. How many books have you read in 2024 so far? Guys, 6 months in, okay?
I wish I had left this as a surprise for you because I told you earlier and your reaction was really good. Let me recap. I had set a goal of 100 books for this year.
Please. Oh, please. Whatever.
Which I read just over 100 last year, so I was like, I feel like 100 is like a good, because I also talked about wanting to just read books that I really enjoyed and like go a little slower. So that's where we are with that, with the goal. But I have read 60 books.
Wow.
Which averages to about 10 a month.
Okay.
So, like, that's honestly...
That's fair.
And some months were more, and some months were less. But I also read... Some of those were novellas, or just, like, shorter stories. So, I think if every book I had read was way more in-depth, it would not be this many.
Yeah.
But I definitely did throw in some, like, novellas and some stuff like that. So...
Those count?
Which I'm counting. They 100% count.
Yeah.
It's just... It means that it's, like... That makes sense.
Yes.
You know?
Okay.
What about you, dude?
My goal... What was it? My goal was 55. 55. So I have read 22, which is...
Yeah.
What is that? 4 or 5 books a month, kind of. And then on a good month, 6. So I feel like around this time we should at least be hitting our halfway mark, and you did over, so I think I'm on track.
Yeah.
And Goodreads says that I'm on track. It says you're on track, so I feel happy about that.
It says for me I'm 19 books ahead of schedule.
That's so great.
I don't know how this is happening. I kind of do, because I do just read all the time. Like, on my Kindle app on my phone, on my Kindle late at night.
She really does.
On the commutes, when I'm at work and I'm being lazy. Like, I do just kind of read a lot. So I'm definitely just getting through stuff.
Okay.
But I'm having a great time doing it. So, anyways, we wanted to kind of, recap, like, now that we're 6 months in, what we've loved, what has been just kind of not the greatest, and then maybe even some books that, like, we forgot about. So, like, when we were going back through our Goodreads, like, oh, I read that? Huh?
Yeah.
So, maybe we start off. Caitlin, why don't you start us off with your first 5-star of the year?
My first 5-star was Ruthless Vows.
Yeah.
By my queen, Rebecca. Hi again, Rebecca. You're never going to listen to this, but I'm saying hi anyway. This is the end of the duology for Divine Rivals, and if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, she's one of our favorite authors. Her duologies are amazing. Me and Sophia have talked about the end of this book and how maybe we wished it would have ended a different way, but I still gave it 5 stars. Yeah. So that was back in January.
I think it's also good to mention that, like, just because we rate a book 5 stars does not mean it was absolutely perfect. Like, 5 stars means something different to everybody, and I think that also it's okay to be like, you know what, maybe this could have been different, maybe that, but you know what, 5 stars.
Totally.
Yeah, it's fine, you know.
What about you?
I was very close with Ruthless Vows. The more I've thought about it, it's like right under for me. So I'm going to count that as like my first almost 5-star of the year. But my first official 5-star was actually not a 5-star. It was a 6-star.
Uh-oh.
And it has remained a 6-star, and it's not leaving anytime soon.
Great.
And that is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez.
I need to read that. Finish
And
it.
I think about that book all the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't help that I follow the author and that she's always posting updates. And, like, I'm just like oh my gosh. I just, it's never, they live rent-free in my head.
I love it.
And I need the sequel now. So.
When is her sequel coming out?
November.
Okay, the fall. Oh,
Yeah.
that is such a...
I know. And the thing is, it was released on NetGalley as an ARC, but you can only wish for it. And so that means there's only, like, very few people that they'll allow to read it. And so I've wished for it. And I'm making sure, guys, that all the books that I have as ARCs, I'm going to read and give good review
Yeah.
and like be, so that way, hopefully if they look at my account, they're like, oh, this girl like puts the work in.
Well, we also should check out around that time if she's going to be in the city.
I hope. She's still such an underrated author. I feel like not many people know about her or her books.
I mean, honestly, she might be at like Ripped Bodice or something.
Probably.
Oh,
Anyways, so that was my first favorite book that I've read, and it has definitely remained up there. So that was really exciting to read a book earlier on in the year that has just stayed with me and has definitely stayed in like that 6-star category.
Yeah, I think it's funny too also that I said Rebecca and you said Isabel because they're besties. They're
so
writing besties.
They've dedicated their books to each other.
So freaking cute.
I love it.
Gosh,
I'm
whatever.
obsessed.
Whatever.
All right, what do you have next up?
None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. Yes, that was an audiobook. I had it on Kindle and I started it, but the audiobook was my favorite and I finished it. I was going between audio and Kindle. I finished it on Kindle though. It was so good.
Nice.
Oh, it was so good.
I really enjoyed that one. That one I listened to as an audiobook.
Right.
I've talked about this before, and the audiobook was just so gripping. Like, you didn't want to stop listening.
Yeah, right.
It was so good. I am going to just shout out a series that is not quite 5 stars, but I've definitely loved, and I'm giving it kind of the 4.5, like as a trilogy, and that is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. So we have Clockwork Prince, Clockwork Angel, Clockwork Prince, and Clockwork Princess. And then I did read the Chain of Gold series. What's that one called? I don't remember. But The Infernal Devices, I think it's her best for a reason. A lot of people say that like that's her top tier trilogy out of all the books she's written, and it is really, really, really good. I do think about it quite a bit. There were some things that I didn't love, so that's why I didn't quite hit that 5-star category for me. But it is a trilogy that I would highly recommend, and like I'm so glad that I got to this year because it had kind of been on my like bucket list of books for a long time.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that one. Not quite 5 stars, but like very, very close.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. My next one is Magnolia Parks. Whoop whoop. Clearly, I don't need to say anything more. You guys know I'm obsessed with Magnolia Parks. I have not finished Daisy Hates, so I'm hoping to get to that this summer. But I devoured that thing real quick.
I love that.
That was an easy 5 stars for me.
I would really like to get to that soon. I don't
I
know.
know.
We'll see.
I know.
We'll see.
That's okay.
I now need to jump forward a little bit because I didn't have any 5 stars in, I don't think, March at all. So January was like the Ruthless Vows vibe, and then February was Infernal Devices and What the River Knows. I didn't have any 5 stars in March, which was really sad. And like maybe they were all even hitting just the 4-star mark. Like really nothing hit. And then in April, I read Funny Story by Emily Henry.
Yep.
Immediately 5 stars because she's the queen. And you know what? Isn't my favorite book of hers? No. Is Book Lovers still my absolute favorite? Absolutely. But I really loved it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's one of those 5 stars where I'm like, you know what, guys? It's the vibes.
Yeah.
It's the vibes. I love it. Like,
Yeah, it's so
just
cute.
But like I just think with Emily Henry, like she writes in such a way where if you fall in love with one of the characters or like a plot of it, like you're going to love the whole thing, which is why I think some people don't connect with all of her books, which is again fine. But yeah, I put that down. I was like, yeah, 5 stars. Why not?
Yay.
I loved it. It was great, you know.
Well, it's funny. I didn't have any in February. And then I think I had Magnolia Park's reappearance of Rachel Price.
Right.
Yes.
Which you had an arc for.
Yes.
That's so
yeah,
exciting.
the arc was so cool, but like I didn't know. I didn't get an email until I checked my bookshelf and I was like, this is due in like 5 days. Thankfully, the book was so good that I ate it up in like 2. So I made it. And then it's really, really cool to see it in person, like at the bookstore and be like, oh my gosh, I read the arc for that. So
yeah,
that's fun.
That's okay. I will just say that's really cool to get an arc of a book that is very popular. People love her as an author. Like, feels like a little like treat.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, I got to read that early. I am going to then shout out Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. But I think that my journey to get there was reading the 2 books previously, which is Part of Your World, which I gave like a 3.5. It was fine. And I would recommend if you want to keep reading her other books. And then I read Yours Truly, which I gave like a 4.5, and I loved it.
Oh.
Not quite 5-star, though. Like, I was like, this is way improved, for sure. And then I read Just for the Summer, and I was like, yeah, this is it.
Wow.
This is the one. And I'd be so curious to see what people think who haven't read the other books.
I don't think I'm going to read the other books. Oh, bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
I'm just going to go straight into Just for the Summer.
I think it'll be fine.
Let's see what I say about it later. Because
I would love to know.
Well, tell everybody why you recommend reading the 2 books before.
So, technically, these are standalones, but they're in a connected world. So, characters that you see pop up that are not the main characters have been main characters in a previous book. So, to start out with Part of Your World, which was the first one, our 2 main characters are, they're the starting point, right? Then in Yours Truly, it is the best friend of our female main character of Part of Your World. So she's now the main character, but the best friend, who was the main character in Part of Your World, shows up and is like involved.
Right.
But you don't have to read her book technically. It's just nice to read because then you're like, oh, I know her. Like, I know her story. Like, got you, you know. And then I will say, I think that Just for the Summer is probably the most disconnected from the other 2, but there are still characters that show up that you're like, oh, I know who that is.
Right.
I know that story.
That's so cute.
And then there is something that happens near the end of the book where it's like, if you know, you know, but I still think that you would enjoy it even if you don't know. So it's really interesting. And there are some other romance authors, some rom-com writers that do these connected worlds. And it's so interesting versus reading like a fantasy series, for example, where it's a very clear series. You need to read the first book to read the second book, yada, yada. But a lot of romance authors say that they're standalones you can read on their own, but it's, hey, you'll get Easter eggs and you'll get fun things if you read it. So I'm kind of like, it's not a series, but it kind of feels like it when you do read them all. I don't know, but I really will say Just for the Summer, I really, really loved. Probably a little bit more than Funny Story, even though I still gave both 5 stars. I'm kind of like, maybe that tops it just a little bit. Yeah. But I don't know if it's the previous experiences that I had with the other books. I'm not quite sure. Okay. But I really, really, really recommend. And I had never read any Abby Jimenez before, and so getting into a new author, which I knew people loved, was really fun. Yeah. So would highly recommend some Abby Jimenez for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
This 5-star I've been talking about a lot. This is Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I think I'm saying that okay. Her audiobook had a Broadway actress doing it, and I was like hooked. This was the very first time I had cried with an audiobook. Aww. I'm cooking dinner and like the end, it has a Emily Henry vibe where like someone has a very big monologue. Aww. And it's just like it ties it. It's like a happy rom-com, and I'm like cooking dinner and I'm like, wait,
wait.
I've
my
never
gosh.
cried with an audiobook, and the reader did great. The writer, I mean, like, it was very spring vibes. It takes place in New York City. The trope is best friend's older brother.
Love that.
And they grew up together. It's just like, it was just made me smile a lot. So
Yeah.
I gave all of that 5 stars. So yeah.
Have you ever, this is really random, but I'm just curious, do you think that a best friend's older brother is a real, like, has happened in real life?
Probably.
Okay. It's definitely, like, a trope, like, for sure. Like, people love reading that. Like, it's like, oh, they grew up together, but he's the older brother. So,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm kind of like, I'm sure it's happened in real life, but I don't know how that would play out.
I think I'm thinking about, like, have you ever crushed on your best friend's older brother? I think for sure that's probably
100%.
happened. But
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually end up together, like, in real life. You know what I'm saying?
If any of y'all know or have had an experience like that, I would love to know because, again, that's a trope that I feel like is realistic. Guys, some tropes are just not realistic.
No.
But this one, I'm like, has it worked out before? Like, all the way to marriage is what I'm saying.
I don't know how... Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't know how much enemies to lovers happens in real life.
No, I don't know.
I feel like that's a fantasy in a rom-com situation. That's not...
I mean, there's
real
there's got to be, like, you know, academic rivals situations, but even those I feel like are probably very not as rivalry as we read about.
That's like Never Have I Ever. Have you seen that show?
Yes,
oh my gosh, it's so
love
good.
that. Although the main character started getting on my nerves sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. She's annoying.
I was
But
like, girl, what are we doing?
yeah.
But yeah, it's like that vibe. So
Okay, I like
anyways, but I want to read that because again, you've hyped it up a lot. So
It's so sweet.
it's
Yeah.
on the want to read
nice
shelf on Goodreads.
There, I know. And then I just had funny story. So that's as far as I've gotten so far as 5 stars.
Yeah. I will mention a series that I don't know what to rate, and I don't know if I can put a rating on it, but
right.
I loved it. And that is the Poppy War trilogy by R.F. Kuang. Y'all already know I love her as an author. I've talked about her before.
She's great.
And I also read Yellowface by her recently, which now we both read. And y'all, I don't know how to rate her books because they're so good, but I'm like, I finish reading her books and I just kind of stare at a wall.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what to think. Like, and so I'm like, I know I loved it, but can I put a number on it?
She's
Which
such
I'm
a
like,
diverse writer too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like,
I think that's the thing. So, like, I think what I'm trying to say is that they were 5 stars, but I'm also like, but there were some things that, like, I was like, maybe. But then there were other parts that I'm like, I'm so in it. Like, you could not pull me out of it, you know? So I'm just going to shout her out as an author in general. Like, any R.F. Kuang book, I think, is just, it's such a worthy, like, read.
Yeah.
Even if you don't end up, like, loving it, like, she's an author that I think everybody should read at least one of her books. But yeah, so that was the other one that I'm like, oh man, that was real good.
Let's do
yeah.
our lowest rated books of 2024. You can go first on this one.
I only have one that I like rated low. There's more that I feel like I just forgot about, which we'll get into that in a bit. But the only one that I rated fairly low, and I've since kind of, I feel like I rated it high-ish, and then I've lowered it just over time, and that is Remarkably Bright Creatures. Which
Why
I feel
did I know
really,
you were gonna say
I feel really bad
that?
about because I've read some other literary fiction so far this year that I actually enjoyed. Like I read Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead or something like that, and I actually really enjoyed that, and that was literary fiction at its core. But something about, and I at first I rated it, I think maybe a 4 stars, but I think it's dropped to around a 3. I just don't think about it like at all. And I don't know. It's just not for me. I don't think it was for us.
That was our book club pick.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have chosen that on my own. But the thing is, it's so critically acclaimed that you feel almost FOMO if you don't give it a try.
Yeah.
But now I know myself, and I'm not going to do that again. Like, I'm just going to go for ones that I know that I might feel good reading. I I need some plot moving. This is very character driven. This is an everyday kind of like, oh, she went to the grocery store and she saw the guy that I'm like, I don't need that. I need some movement. Yeah. So I also gave that, well, I DNF'd it. So I don't even think that counts.
Yeah. I think it counts as that you would have given it such a low rating that you DNF'd it.
Yeah.
You know?
The writing might be for other people, but it definitely wasn't for me. And I even think our book club, there were like 6 or 7 of us who attended, and we all, like, the average rating was like 3.7.
Yeah.
3.75.
I think it was the highest rating. I think either me or one other person in our book club was like the highest person that rated it, or like the highest rating. And then, like I said, since I've kind of dropped it. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I would love to know, though. Well, do you have any other low-rated ones?
I have 2. I know.
Ooh. Well, that was my only one that was like a low rating. So
yeah.
Tell me.
So I have one that is 3 stars, which I read at the beginning of the year, which definitely did not kick it off for me, but Never by Jessa Hastings.
Yeah.
Remember that
my gosh,
one?
I forgot about that.
See, I forgot about it too.
Oh, well, there you go.
I gave it a 3. It was so toxic, and not the kind like from Magnolia where like you maybe are hoping to root for these characters. It was also a Peter Pan retelling, and it was just you know. So that was a bummer. And then another book club book was Paris Apartment.
Which I didn't even read.
She didn't read it. She didn't.
I didn't even pick it up. I was like, I'm
by
not.
Lucy
I'm
Foley.
Not doing it.
I rated it 2.75. And that's pretty freaking close to people we meet on vacation. So if that says something to you, I cannot imagine reading that again. It was torture. Yeah. I'm sorry. It was torture. And it's so funny because when you're a part of a book club, like at least our book club, we all submit books and in hopes that maybe our book gets picked, right?
Yeah.
But we all vote.
Yeah. And I will say something that I'm glad we're doing now with book club, where we used to vote on books but have our name as like who submitted it. So like Sophia submitted this book, Caitlin submitted this book, yada yada, you know. And the past couple times we've now done it anonymously, which I think has helped a lot because, and then we each vote for 2 books. So like you can vote for your own book if you still really want to read it, plus just like another book. And I think it's helped that we are doing it anonymously now because so far the books that we've picked I think have been better overall.
Yeah.
I mean, we still have all various thoughts on the books, but like in general, I feel like the anonymous vote has really helped.
It's getting better.
It's getting better. Yeah.
Yeah. We also have lately been theming a lot of our books. So people like, you know, for AAPI month, it had to be an AAPI author, stuff like that. So I feel like it's getting better. But I think when we were just throwing books out there, we all ended up kind of not finding books that we all really loved. So we're working on it.
Yeah,
but
it's been better. What was the next one though? Oh my gosh.
That was only 2.
Oh, that was only okay.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I'd be so curious. I don't think you're ever gonna do it, but it would be so interesting to me if you reread People We Meet on Vacation. Because now that you've read more Emily Henry, like say for example you read Beach Read, and then you've read her whole list.
Yeah.
I'd be so curious. Like, honestly, like, I would be down to reread it at some point because it's also my least favorite of her books. I don't know.
Right.
I don't think either of us are planning on doing that anytime soon.
Get back to me.
Right.
Get
but,
back
like,
to me
I would just want to know. I would want to know if thoughts have changed now that we've both read all of her books.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Anyways, I'm just throwing that out there. This is just happening right now.
Let me know if you guys want to...
like a reread our lowest rated books type thing. Put us through some torture. Anyways, what are some books that you forgot about? So maybe these are just like the midpoint books that you rated kind of decently, but then they've just not stayed with you.
I only have one.
Okay.
I forgot I read this. It was an arc that came out very soon after I read it. One by One by Frida McFadden.
Ooh, Frida McFadden.
Yeah. Here's the thing. She's like, you know, those authors that always has stuff coming out. It was good, and I enjoyed reading it. I put it down, and I picked up another book, and I forgot about it. So, like, it's a fun, fast-paced book, but it didn't stick with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Housemaid, I was like, yeah, that's a good one. And I would recommend that one if someone wants to get into thriller. But One by One was just kind of like, I don't even remember how it ended now that I think about it.
That's not good for a thriller.
Yeah.
You normally want to, that's the one thing that you should remember typically. Dang.
Oh my God, I really don't remember.
Ooh. Yikes.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, no.
Whoops. Is it out now? Or is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's been out.
Interesting. I have two. One is ironically actually a Peter Pan retelling. And it's called Lost Boy by Christina Henry.
Oh.
And it was recommended to me. And I enjoyed it when I was reading it. I had a good time with it. But then I put it down and I never thought about it again. Like, I literally was looking through my Goodreads and I was like, oh yeah, I read that. Like, it was just very simplistic writing. It basically was a Peter Pan retelling where Hook, Captain, who eventually would become Captain Hook, is the good guy and Peter Pan is the villain, which, by the way, I'm all about the Peter Pan as the villain vibe. I mean, if you have watched Once Upon a Time,
yeah,
they did that so well where Peter Pan as the villain makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I think every Peter Pan retelling should always be about him being the villain.
That's kind of what Jessa Hastings did, too.
He is a villain. Like,
Yeah.
let's be honest. So
He steals children in the middle of the
literally
night.
does.
That's
And
creepy.
he's very manipulative.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I'm all about the, like, Peter Pan as the villain retelling.
Yeah.
But it was just a little bit forgettable, where it's not my favorite retelling I've ever read. And y'all know I love a good retelling. So it just kind of was like, okay, that was good. I think I rated
Yeah.
like a 3.5. You know, where I'm like, I would recommend it if you want a retelling of a fairy tale or, you know, whatever. But it's not like it stayed with me too long, which again I think is totally fine. And I would also say the second book that I kind of forgot about was an arc. It's sad when sometimes arcs just don't hit because,
I know.
you know, and like I'm always so grateful whenever I get accepted to like read an arc because I'm like, it just makes me feel very special and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got the opportunity to read a book early. And this book was Empire of Shadows by Jacqueline Benson, and it was a like historical fiction with like magical realism and kind of an enemies and enemies to lovers, you know, two main characters, there's an adventure, there's a stolen relic, yada yada, like, you know, that vibe. But I read it, it was fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
When the response is, it was fine, that's
yeah,
not.
Yeah. So I think it's just weird because I'm like, oh, okay, I read it.
Right.
I enjoyed it. But then like I've never thought about it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like it's sad because, so like I said, I read 60 books so far this year and most of them I still remember, which I'm very good. Like I love. I'm loving that. Like I can think about like, oh, I read Dry by Neil Shusterman. I could tell you that story. I read In a New York Minute by Kate Spencer and really enjoyed that rom-com. Like I can think of the random books that I read and still kind of tell you the basic story or what I enjoyed about them. But there are always going to be those books that when you read a lot, there's always going to be the books that sneak in that you're kind of like, oh, I forgot I read that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's definitely the situation with that. But I don't know. Were there any other books that, like, as you were going through, you were like either loved that or hated it or forgot about?
I mean, most of them I do remember when I talk about it, but like I was looking at my list, I was like, all right. Like it sucks when you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I read that.
Yeah.
Oops.
Whoops. Would you like to?
Yes.
Here we go.
Oh.
Iconic. Today's question.
Keeping a straight face after doing that is really hard.
Comes from our book bestie Ria's bookshelf life.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that I tried to memorize that username. But anyway, this is one of our besties who's been with us since the beginning.
Yeah, rocking with us. Let's go.
And she asked, what is an audiobook that you recommend? And I feel like you have probably more recommendations. We've already touched a little bit even today.
Yeah.
Already on some. I'm going to throw out mine and then I'll let you kind of take over because
Okay.
you've listened to more audiobooks. I'm always going to recommend None of This Is True. The audiobook.
Yes.
And I've definitely talked about that before. I just think the way that they did the audiobook was such a interesting experience to listen to, how they kind of mix up the audios and there's different aspects to it than just somebody reading you the book.
Yes.
So that's my recommendation. But I'm not a huge audiobook person. So that's probably the only one that I'm like, I've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Other ones I'm kind of like, oh, they just read to you.
Yeah,
fine. But,
I feel that.
But you've done more, so.
I will say, and I think I've probably mentioned this before, that the Divine Rivals audiobook took the cake for me. I think that's what made me love it, because the book is written with two different perspectives. So Rebecca got a girl reader and a guy reader. Both of them were British, and they were acting. They were not reading the book, they were acting, and I was in it. I never read it. Like, I never picked up a book or put it on Kindle. I listened to it, and that made me obsessed with the whole story. I mean, I was on the subway like, what? Like, I could not believe what was happening. So I think if you're gonna try it, do that, because there's two voices, two perspectives, and you can kind of separate that. It's hard for me because I listen to, oh gosh, Maybe in Another Life.
Yeah.
And it's only one reader, and she's doing the guy voices. Oh my gosh. It's so cringe, you guys.
Yeah.
I got through it because the story was worth it, but I would never do it again. So romance is sometimes hard for me.
Yeah.
If there's not enough readers.
Yeah. Because then it makes it more of an experience. Like, it's actually a audio experience.
Yeah.
Versus just like I said, like somebody's just reading it to you.
Oh, girl, I forgot I read Lost Bookshop. And that's an audiobook with 3 readers, because there's 3 different perspectives. Oops,
right.
Did I put her down? Dang.
I don't know.
Oopsie. There's one, guys. But the audiobook is really good, I'll say.
Even though you would prefer it to be just one storyline.
Yes, correct. Anyway.
As we've discussed before. But anyways, yeah, well, let us know what your favorite book was so far of this year, now that we've entered the 6-month mark.
Yes.
Or if you have a least favorite, we would love to know.
I know.
Yeah, because it's just crazy kind of reminiscing and looking back.
This has been a good year, though, of new releases.
Yes. So many good ones.
Yeah. There's Ashley Poston is coming out with a novel love story, and I'm going to go meet her in person at the end of this month. So I'm
exciting.
Very excited.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to be a 5-star. I feel it.
I can't wait to read it. I'm so sad that neither of us got the arc, but that's okay.
Whatever.
It's fine. We're clearly over it.
Yeah, obviously.
Fine. All right, you guys. We will see you next week.
Yes.
Enjoy the start of summer.
Yay,
Hopefully it's
summer.
warm and you guys are getting some good reading in. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.